we were really
Everything
tight
takes me.
going into 26, but
but-
with all the
Yeah, just whatever.
political
family
stuff.
time.
It's Thursday, June 4th, 2026, and I call this meeting of the Trophy Club Planning and Zoning Commission to order at 6 p.m. Let the record reflect there is a quorum present. Public comments. Do we have anybody here signed up for public comments?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm going to skip that part then, and we'll go straight to the agenda item. Agenda item number 1 is case SUP 26001, Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio and Spa, Outdoor Storage Tank. Conduct a public hearing and consider recommendation of the town council regarding the specific use permit, SUP, requested by Pinch a Penny Patio, Pool, Patio and Spa for an outdoor storage tank within the Planned Development District 21, PD 21 shopping center located at 301 Trophy Lake Drive, Suite 124, Trophy Club, Denton County, Texas 76262. Matt?
All right, good evening, Commissioners. I think I'm going to do this a little differently than normal. Instead of going through a long list of staff report, I know y'all got questions, and so instead of me answering your questions, I'll make mine brief, and then that gives y'all, because I've gotten quite a few calls just from citizens. So if I'm answering your questions and y'all aren't asking them, it makes more sense to hear it from y'all. So, so the basics, it's zoned PD 21, so it's over there in that Tom Thumb parking lot area. It's actually taken the place of the foot massage place. It's that same suite, Suite 124. Because of the restriction, a special use permit is required to allow this for outside storage. So the only outside storage that's allowed there is for like trash. The tank will connect to the building through underground double sleeve PVC piping. The town marshal and I have both. So the side note, we get these plans that come in. We did a quick pause on doing the plan review because of this outside storage. But because we knew we were going to get questions on this specifically, the town fire marshal and I have done a review on basically the tank, the plumbing, and then the bleach room itself, just to be able to answer those questions. Notice of public hearing was distributed as required by the Town of Trophy Club zoning ordinance and state law. At the time of the agenda packet publication, staff has received no letters of support or opposition. Staff does recommend approval, and the applicant, they do have a representative here.
Gentlemen, any questions?
Close.
Oh, I'm sorry. Public hearing's open at 6:03 p.m.
You already opened it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Now you can close it.
Yeah.
So there's no one here.
We're going to close it now? That was it? Okay, 6:03:35. We're going to close the public hearing.
Now questions.
I've got a couple of questions.
Okay.
Probably one for you, Matt, and one for Mr. Hughes. So for Mr. Hughes, I'm curious if we should expect to have any kind of chlorine odor in the area. Is that something we should expect?
Before you answer, could you state your name and your
Yes, sir.
address, please, for the record?
David Hughes, that's loud, 1655 Plummer Drive in Rockwall, Texas.
Okay. You can go ahead and answer.
Probably not. The smell that's created from chlorine is usually when it's actively disinfecting. It produces what's called chloramine. That's what you smell. The chlorine product itself hardly has any smell at all, except for when you put it in the container, if there's any contaminant or anything in there that it actually has to neutralize, that's where the smell comes from. So this is a sealed container. It does have, on the indoor tanks, they're vented. The outdoor tanks have just got a pressure relief. So it's hardly ever even vented outside at all. So probably not any smell unless and there's the occasion when they fill the tanks, a big tanker comes up, they run a hose, they fill the tank. There's always going to be a little bit of spillage. And that's usually taken care of with a quick rinse of water. And the stores keep peroxide. They use different products, but peroxide is one of the dechlorinating solutions that they use. If they have a spill, they're taught to, rinse it real good, dump some peroxide on it, rinse it again. So we don't have any, that I have knowledge of, complaints from neighboring tenants or in some areas where we're right up against residential. That hasn't been a complaint that I've heard of, so.
Hasn't been an issue. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hughes. And then, Matt, I think my next question is probably more for you.
Okay.
So I'm also curious, looking long-term in the future, if this, business were to end their lease or the land were to be sold, is there, from a town perspective, is there any limitations that this kind of tank or could cause in terms of how that lot could be used in the future?
I don't foresee anything. I mean, they're gonna, the outside storage, they're requesting to take up 2 parking spaces. So there'd be the loss of those 2 parking spaces. And then if that was completely removed, then obviously those parking spaces would be back available. If they went out of business, the tank would be removed. Let's just say, a Dan's Bagels came in, that'd be utilized, fine. And then any other retail. I don't foresee any issues with that. Probably when you're looking at lease spaces, when a restaurant comes into a retail spot, restaurants usually tear up the lease space more than any other thing, because they are removing concrete, they're digging 3 or 4 feet underground, for their plumbing, their grease traps, the electrical, the vent hood cutting through the roof. So I don't foresee that. Now, I'm not the landlord, but the landlord obviously has looked at them and said, and they're going to take into consideration that if they're out of business, what they would do. So I don't want to speak for the landlord's sake, but from the town perspective, I don't see any issues with that.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Sorry, I was long-winded.
Mr. Hughes, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What is your experience or what is your role in the purpose and the distribution of this product? And specifically, is it just the store itself, or are you actually actively involved in transporting bleach and this product to these locations?
I'm actually the general contractor.
Okay.
I've done all but one of the 17 DFW locations. I also, 4 years ago, bought a store. So I've actually been a franchisee and operated a store for a while, and then went pretty well. Made an offer, sold it. But so I've had experience on both sides. My role is just as the general contractor. Since the company is in Clearwater, Florida, and I've got a lot of experience on both sides, I've handled this will be the 3rd special use process we've gone through. I was involved in the first one, and then I've done the second one. So that's kind of why I'm here.
What other cities?
Thank
Oh,
you,
my
Matt.
goodness.
You
Let's
took my
see.
next question.
Yeah, there's a good list of them. Mansfield, Arlington, Flower Mound, Frisco, Little Elm, McKinney.
I think McKinney
I can get you a complete list.
And
go too
all
fast.
these sites, is it standard for a pinch a penny to have one of these external chlorine or bleach storage tanks?
Yes.
Okay.
The pinch a penny concept, where it differs, well, little history. Pinch a penny's been around for like 51 years. They're the retail branch of Pool Corp, who's the biggest distributor, manufacturer of pool supplies on the planet. The concept, how it differs from, say, a Leslie's. Now, Leslie's has 2 or 3 times more stores nationwide, but these stores both sell product and do pool service. They'll have 200 or 300 pools that they clean weekly. And so about half of the sanitizer, the liquid chlorine, is used for the service trucks to go out and actually do the pool service. The rest of it is for do-it-yourselfers. If any of you've got pools, you disinfect, shock your pool. This takes the place of the powdered shock. So the pinch a penny concept is bringing the cost down, and they feel like it's a better sanitizer. The customer doesn't have to store it on site. They have a program where you come in and you buy a jug of chlorine. It's a 2-gallon jug. In most pools, that's the right amount. Sometimes a little less, a little more. You go shock your pool, then you come back in a week later, you bring a water sample, you bring your empty jug back, and you exchange it for a full jug. So you buy the jug one time, and then the purpose of the chlorine storage is each morning, the store employees go out, open the valve. It opens the line into the building, which is simply gravity fed, no pumps, no pressure. Then they have a platform about this big, it's a spill platform that they'll fill 15 or 20 jugs each morning. So that's the process. And all pinch a penny stores have the storage tanks. There are a few that have indoor storage tanks. They're nightmares. I think they're a lot more problematic than the outdoor tanks. As he said, this basically will look like a dumpster enclosure. There's no outside storage other than that. We're not storing parts or equipment, so they're clean.
So related to this, you had mentioned also those service vehicles that are going out and helping people with their own pools at their residential properties.
Yes.
Will they be taking up spaces in the back of this storefront or this PD20 as well, PD21 rather?
We haven't discussed that.
Okay.
Typically, they don't park behind the stores in a location like this. They'll park, either they take the trucks home with them,
Okay.
or they park out in the middle of the big parking lot. So
And what may be particularly unique about this, reason why I'm asking, is because the Sting soccer field's behind there, almost every day during the week from, say, now till 8:30, 9 o'clock. I mean, there's a constant flow of kids, children, parents, transporting folks to and from the practice fields. And so, but that's not included. That field is not PD21, correct?
No, that's
Okay.
not.
All right. That's all I have for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have one question. Let's say the lease, they go out of business. I'm assuming that the landlord requires them to remove that when they leave the premises?
in almost every case. I have not studied this particular lease because it's kind of in process. This is a contingency period to determine if we're able to put the tank in. I'm sure the lease framework is there, but I can say something I can report and get back to you. In almost every case that I've been involved with, there's a clause that says that all of it, and in some cases, even the sub slab plumbing would have to be removed. So, on a good note, though, Pinch a Penny's pretty solid. I'm not saying that it's not possible. They've never closed a Texas location. Now, that's not to say they haven't implanted a new franchisee.
Right.
But they're pretty, I've not had to be involved in anything where we've had to remove, or in my time with them, even heard of it. But I'm sure that most leases are going to contain something that states that.
It's beyond us, but that would be between them and landlord. But he's right. Most of the clauses, they've got something on a cleanup or whatever, and then if not, then they'll do the cleanup and then back charge, so.
Well, another side note, and I'm trying not to be long-winded, in Little Elm, they wrote it in the ordinance that we had to agree to remove the tank.
I got a question. So you mentioned the indoor tank. What is problematic about those, and is that an option at this location?
It's not big enough to house the indoor tank. The other problem with the indoor tanks is for the trucks to come and fill, they try to be as they try to have as little impact as possible. The store deliveries and the bleach deliveries are mostly done after hours. And so everything is locked up. The truck drivers have the keys or the codes, and they come and they fill the containers a lot of times. So that's one. is being able to get the trucks up to fill the tanks. The other thing is chlorine is not flammable or doesn't have any other hazardous labeling other than corrosive. The bleach fill platform that they use is in a room with an exhaust fan designed for corrosive exhaust, to exhaust it per code, 10 feet away from openings, and we're always compliant there. But when it's inside in that bulk and that amount, you have to worry about corrosion to the interior of the building, just because the sheer volume and the transferring of the bleach from the trucks in and out. So
Our preference would be, I don't want it in the building.
Outdoor?
that's most fire marshals, and
Right.
we've had fire marshals that just said, flat said no.
Okay. And so you said that all the locations have or some kind of tank, but most have it outdoor.
Yes.
Is there any history of releases from Pinch A Penny? Anything that has ever broke containment or anything like that at another store?
No. They do have a history of when they have, there's never been a catastrophic, how do they put it, event or leak. There's a spill containment that's I don't know if it's ABS or what the material, but it's a resistant, it's a huge tub that this tank sits in. And in the event of a catastrophic leak, because the only time that the valve is turned on live is when they're filling tanks on the inside. The rest of the time, there's a shutoff valve inside the containment tub that the tank sits in. And it's designed to hold the full volume if there were a spill. So other than somebody drops the hose or somebody spills a jug, that's the majority of the incidents that I've been privy to. But to my knowledge, there's never been a major leak that wasn't. Now, there have been. Tank seals go out, containment fills up, they have to come out, pump the tanks out, do the cleanup. But it's never been where we've had to have hazmat come in or do. Now, there's some pretty strict regulations for EPA and recording spills and what they did about them. So Pinch is pretty compliant with, I'm sure in the document, there's just pages and pages of. So as my perspective is, I feel pretty confident. It would take a highly unusual, we put cinder blocks around them, we put bollards. It would be really difficult for there to be an incident. Not that it's impossible, but.
Okay. And then one last question is probably more for Matt. Has the town required any kind of spill modeling, or anything like that?
No, so you know that I'm over the streets department as well, which is stormwater. And so we've got, and he mentioned earlier about the dechlorination. So same with fire marshal and then same with us. You can't legally, and it happens, you cannot legally just drain your pool out into the street and down the street into stormwater. So you're supposed to dechlorinate that water. And so they have the ability, because they have those chemicals already inside to dechlorinate. Let's say there was a spill. They have the ability just to start dechlorinating as it was going. So now you've got basically dechlorinated water that it's not going to be harmful to anything. So that would be your worst case scenario is, trying to think it all the way through. That would literally, I guess, be the worst case scenario.
Well, so what I'm thinking is if, based on where this would be, it's a downslope to those soccer fields, and then there's a creek that runs back there. I know there's probably some.
This is a modest tank. This is 950 gallons.
Right.
That's all.
Right, but let's
This is
say.
a very small tank.
Right.
Just to put it in perspective, TC swimming pool, they have a 500-gallon tank and a 750-gallon tank out at the pool. So, and that's feet away from the kids. So they can't fill that like these guys where they can come up with a truck and just drop a hose in the top. They've got to run the hose all the way through the, in there and then fill those, contain any drips or anything like that. So, yeah, that's a very modest tank.
Yeah,
So, like if that just spilled out,
Yeah, I'm thinking my concern, and the reason I think, I work in oil and gas, and we have storage tanks as well, we have to do the same thing, containment, all kind of stuff, but we're required to model our stuff. So broke containment, broke, guillotine across it, where does that fluid go? And does it affect any water? Does it affect any residents? Does it, all that kind of stuff? I'd probably feel more comfortable with the soccer fields and then mainly that creek back there. Because, I agree with you, it's a modest tank, it's not very big, but 950 gallons could definitely leak across the soccer field and into that creek.
It would have to,
You have a storm?
it would have to be knocked into the.
Or it's worst case scenario, but that's what you model for, right? You got a semi, backs up, knocks the tank over, flips through a wall, and then all of a sudden you have 950 gallons going straight down into the soccer field. It doesn't go on the street or,
Right.
whatever it may be. So that's just, I don't know, I think that would probably be a prudent step, and I don't know if that's something that Pitcher Penny's done before.
I can look into that. It would surprise me if they have not, with 300 stores and so many municipalities they've been in. I'm sure, you're not the first one that's probably brought it up now. I can certainly look into that. One other thing that might make you feel a little bit better, the product is actually double strength household bleach. On the large volume stores that do 1,000 gallons a week, about half of that goes to pressure cleaners and painters. And they spray it in the parking lots. And they use it as the cleaning solution. So super dilution does as good as dechlorinating. If you dilute it to a certain point, the corrosive, and you could probably comment more on that on large spills, the first thing they're taught to do is super dilute. And so.
Yeah, and that was one of my calls questions was this a concentrate? And the answer is not. That tank is your 10%, 10 to 12% is what you buy at the store. So it's not a concentrated, and then they're adding water to it to dilute it. So that tank is already in the diluted form. That was one of the first calls I got on that.
And so the typical response would be, if it does release whatever, it'd probably be just flood it with water.
Flood it with water. And again, I know that you have to look at the worst case scenario. The first thing that's going to happen is the container is going to start filling. Now, if both are damaged, like you said, a semi runs into it, all bets are off.
Right.
We built a solid wall. We got bollards 4 foot in the ground, but, so the first step, is there's an eye wash station, a hose bib within 20 feet usually, that they're taught to immediately start rinsing, get the water going, rinse it out, call the appropriate, if you need a pump truck, whatever, there's an SOP manual that all of these store owners, they don't just, whether you're in the business, whether you've done it before, even if you've owned a facility before, they go to Florida for a month of training. Most of that, and I've been through it, most of that's safety training. They don't teach you how to run a business. They don't really teach you how to clean a pool. They do a little bit, but it's mostly safety, because there's other chemicals in the store. There's other caustics. There's other things that are a lot worse than the hypochlorite. But so I think your point though is, and I'll check and see if they've done some modeling. If not, I'm sure they would not be opposed to doing some modeling.
It's not an expensive analysis
No.
to do, but I think it'd probably be worthwhile to see.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
So I have a couple questions. Number one, in looking at the containment, I don't see anything that would shade the tank. Because I know tanks breathe. So they expand and contract. And there's no shading structure that's on the enclosure. And I also see the enclosure probably has metal doors on the front.
Yes.
So in connection with the product that's putting in there, it's highly likely that there will be a corrosive event
It's possible.
on those gates.
It does happen, yes.
So you have two things. You have heat, sunlight, breathing, vapors, material, and corrosion. That leads to the formation of chlorine gas.
Correct.
Chlorine gas isn't going to be dissipated with just plain water.
Right.
So we have the Sting soccer field right now. Most of the activity is filling the tank is being done after hours when a lot of those kids practice. So we have kids back there, we have moms and dads. other kids running up and down the alley and everything else. So those are a couple of concerns that I have. Is, number one, is the formation of chlorine gas. And the other goes back to Commissioner Holmes' point, is typically, I would envision that the biggest risk to this thing is during the refilling of the tank. So you can have a hose rupture at the time that it's being filled. You can have a lack of attention on the coupling, and you could have a spray that goes out, and so that's gonna catch things on either side. Green space right on the other side, cars potentially on the others. And so that's where my concerns come in. And as far as the mitigation of any potential spill, that is also gonna go back to the timeliness of that mitigation when you're able to run out and start dechlorinating before it engages with the grass right next to it, or the storm drains, or the cars next to it. My other concern is with the tanks breathing, it's always gonna make vapors. And those vapors are gonna be transmitted in the air. So if your cars are parked along through there, what is the risk to those cars having some contamination done to them for the extended period of time that tank is exterior to the premise? And so for me, I don't know if it makes sense to have a shading structure over it to try and mitigate the direct sunlight hitting on the top of the tank. Because I know typically sunlight and heat starts degradation
They do.
in the components.
It does.
And so with that degradation, you have, again, expansion, contraction, you have natural venting that occurs. It's gonna vent. And then when you put all of those components in, you run a risk of having chlorine gas created.
That's correct.
And so I know, oil and gas wise, we have meters that people in the field carry to check exposure for that. Not saying that anything here is in that
Of
concentration.
course, so, but it's the
But it
same.
is a concern.
Sure.
So that was my concerns over this, and I still, with the amount of tank left exposed over the top of containment, I always worry about vandalism. I mean, we're vandalized, other businesses are vandalized. What's gonna stop a kid from crawling up there and seeing what that is? So those are my points of concern, is that I don't know, that the way the enclosure and everything else is presented is probably the most stringent that it can be. And so my ask would be to review that and take a look.
Sure.
Because I know we probably have people in the community concerned about similar things. I know I would be, especially with the green space right adjacent to this tank. And so if it did spill, that's dead grass, dead ground. I mean, you're not gonna get it before it can kill that. So those are my questions and concerns.
And it's, the conversations have been had many times. We do have tanks with tops, with covers. Most of the time, it's fabric sail type because they're less affected by.
Correct.
We're usually limited on the height of the containment by city code. We do have them there where we built the cinder block wall all the way above the top and then covered it. We usually cover it with a powder coated screen or fencing. We don't use galvanized because, galvanized reacts very violently with, straight metals and certain paints and stuff are not reactive enough unless there's a big concentration to create a lot of chlorine gas, but it will create, absolutely, reaction does. So it's not outside of the, we could certainly design it to where it would be both secure so they couldn't enter, crawling over the top, and put a cover on it. It's probably gonna become commonplace simply because they manufacture this at about 12%. By the time it gets into the tank, it's 10.5. Most of these stores sell it before it degrades much, but if you're a store that doesn't fill but every 6 weeks in the summertime, then that product is getting down to where it's getting to where you're promoting a product at 10.5, and it has certain properties and does certain things, and if it's down to 8, then it doesn't perform.
Correct.
So So I don't think it's I don't think it would be difficult at all to go back and look at that and redesign something with a higher wall if allowed by the city. We've had to have special permissions to go above the 8-foot limit, because we end up at about, I think we end up at about 12.6. They set the inside the containment, they set blocks to get it up, just to give it some gravity feed. But from construction standpoint, it wouldn't be any problem at all for me to build the wall as high as it needs to be, to put a secure top on it, and even maybe discuss, it's funny, because the construction manager that worked for corporate before pushed PVC a lot. He wanted to use vinyl. He wanted to use it everywhere because it's much less, reactive to chlorine. We haven't had a single municipality that's allowed it because they want it to look like the building. So suffice it to say, we're open to any suggestions to mitigate the problems you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think what we're all talking about is probably in worst-case scenario.
Well, of course, but
So anything on the front end that we can do to preclude an issue moving forward,
sure.
and alleviate any concern that the public would have over the placement of this tank back there, I think goes a long way
Sure.
in mitigating any potential issues that we might see come up.
I agree.
Terry, is one of your recommendations that to at least meet the height of, I guess, the highest point, to where then, because obviously if they can't see it, they're not going to jack with it, kind of
Correct.
thing? Is that what you're?
And they
I mean,
can't climb that high to get there.
12-foot
Right.
So
wall.
the point is, if allowable, in the phase of the SUP is to actually have containment at the same height of the highest point on the equipment.
Yeah.
That's one, and then the other is to have a sunscreen. And the tarp is perfect because it mitigates the direct sunlight, maybe provides some shade, and also helps occlude what's inside the
Sure.
container.
Yeah.
So those are just my two things, man.
Okay, because we could, I mean, that could be part of, that's what I'm writing down, but that could be part of the recommendation too. Okay.
Sure. And those were the only two things that I had, because everything else is sufficient, but, my concern again is on the interior of the gate, it's metal. So, you have a natural reactive material right there in exposure to the chlorine.
Right.
And so, I don't know any other way around it, because your hinges are gonna be metal, whatever they're gonna have.
Right,
So,
even if you do PVC, and then the problem with PVC fencing is it's not secure,
Correct.
so. We've had best luck with powder coat. That seems to be the best, and then proper maintenance.
Sure.
So,
Okay. But that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm going last, because y'all have asked most of my questions anyway. But I just really wanted to echo quite strongly the potential, on the reconstruction drawing that I'm looking at here. Seeing the tank like that, it's kind of an invitation for some vandalism or somebody with a few too many jars deciding that I can get some free chlorine or whatever it is they want to do. So that is a concern, but I think the conclusion that you drew there, Terry, I completely agree with that. The other thing is that in the pressure release valve for the tank, do we have pressure release valves on the tank that's over by the town swim pool?
Oh, yeah.
Does anybody ever complain of odors from there or anything like that?
Not that I know of. I mean, when you walk into any swimming pool area, whether
It
it's
smells of
inside or
chlorine
out,
everywhere.
it just smells like a chlorine, whatever. It's the same, when you
Yeah.
walk into, even, I forgot who I was talking to, but, when you go down the aisle at Walmart, the pool aisle,
You can smell it.
and you're just going to buy a net, I mean, you can still smell the
Yeah,
chlorine.
it's
from-
strong.
I
Yeah,
don't know
disinfectant.
How they work at Leslie's all day.
yeah.
Yeah.
I get high if I'm in lessons too long.
most of what you're smelling in the Walmart aisle or the pool store aisle or at Leslie's is dichlor and some of the other
Yeah.
more
like your
volatile
shock.
chemicals
Yeah.
that they use. Really, of the pool chemicals in the store, not saying I want you to worry more about something else, the liquid bleach is less worrisome than some of the other
Yeah.
chemicals that they use.
Yeah.
Some of the acids are much much more volatile.
I know Leslie's has theirs on pallets out behind the store.
I put a stop to that.
Did you? They're there today, I saw. Just FYI, you know.
So I guess going along with that, I had heard that you know, there are some pressure relief systems that are rebreathing type systems, so you don't get any real gas outlet from it whatsoever. So if that was an issue, then yeah. The other thing that really concerned me is when they come to fill this tank, are they going into the top of the tank with a tube, or are they going to the bottom of the tank?
There's actually a bulkhead fitting and a connector. They actually hard connect in and fill the tank that way. They don't drop a hose in the top.
But where is that connect? Is that near the floor, or is that up in the tank?
No,
Where on the tank is it?
It's actually plumbed through the tank, out the side of the tank and out the side of let me just back it. I haven't looked at one in a while, but because, Full Shore is the company that does the tank filling.
Okay.
They supply the tank. I basically build the enclosure.
Okay.
And I supply the plumbing, conduit, everything else they do. So I'm trying
So-
to go from memory here. But
So what you just indicated was that the actual connector, that the tanker that's containing the product would be connecting onto is only attached to the tank through a tube. It's not actually part of the tank itself.
No, it's actually plumbed in Schedule 80 PVC bulkhead fittings with special connections that are chemical resistant and designed to be.
Okay.
And like I said, knock on wood, I've not been involved or seen anything other than a little bit of the excess bleach that's left in the hose that becomes, you know.
Because one of the things that kind of goes along and worries me just a little bit, especially with this happening out of hours, is presumably this is a one-person job, right? They're there, they're filling a tank, it's out of hours. There ain't nobody else going to help, but you got to make a phone call to get help because something's gone wrong. So it just, with the enclosure itself, it just, you know, and again, we're probably overthinking this, but you could actually, with a secured enclosure, you could include some safety dilution type chemicals in there, like your peroxide or whatever else it might be, and mandate that you've got to have neutralizing chemicals in there, unless by putting a neutralizing chemical in there, it actually creates a hazard or a risk. You know, so you go around the vicious circle, right? But, you know, if something was to go wrong, it's going to smell horrible and it'll be destructive to vegetation that's behind it. And if it gets in the water system, lots of people will get upset. But it's not going to blow anything up, and it's not, you know, it's not an explosive hazard per se. But the smell, the fact that other people are parking around there, the fact that the tank is being refilled outside of ours where there's no other potential help on hand or access to things that can clear a spill up much faster and therefore reduce any damage to it. I think it would be worth considering if it is chemically stable to keep enough, you know, a few gallons of peroxide in there or some sodium thiosulfate or something like that that isn't going to react from the gas smell that you get. If that was actually already in there, then it would alleviate, if somebody's refilling that tank and there was a problem, then there's solutions right there if they've got a major spill, you know? Yeah.
So tagging on to that, I would be interested if they didn't carry those spill kits on their trucks.
They do.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say, that the Full Shore,
Okay.
they supply, like you said, the swimming pools like you're talking about, they set up the tanks and supply those as well.
Okay.
These guys are very well trained. I'm almost certain, and I'll check this to get back, that it's a two-man crew all the time.
Okay.
For that purpose, that way, if something happens, there's someone else there.
Cool.
And they do carry spill kits and they're trained and so.
I'm sure it's similar. I mean, you know, when they're at QT filling, and you'll see where they've got, you know, where they had a little spill or something when they, you know, they've got cones out and they've done that. It's not to the degree of something flammable, but I can only assume that those guys they're prepared for those things on there.
They are. There are
And
prepared.
by law, by TCEQ, they've also got to write the reports. We also get those reports. And that also, then the fire marshal also gets the same report as well. So between Ken and myself, technically Kevin, they're constantly doing these reports on any kind of spills, whether it's this or just, anything.
What is considered a,
2 gallon, I think.
I would say, what's considered a reportable incident?
I think it's over 2 gallons.
Anything over 2 gallons?
Yeah, I think if I remember
it's
right in the
pretty
manual, anything over 2 gallons has to be reported.
Okay.
That's all I had, thank you.
One more thought. I would want to say thank you, Mr. Hughes, for, you've actually been very open and honest with us. And we have a lot of folks that come through here and share information, but you were knowledgeable, so I appreciate that. You came prepared to answer the questions. I know you have experience, so I just want to say thanks for that. And also, Matt, I mean, I know y'all have already considered a lot of different things that we've probably been bringing up today, so that's clear. I was hoping to learn from you, and you touched on this, the other municipalities and what their approach has been for the other stores. And you mentioned one, I want to say it was Little Elm, has an ordinance that as a part of the permitting process and coming on board that, there was language for removal of this. Matt, I think that'd be something that worth recommending to town as well.
Okay.
I'd like to see that included in whatever we advance forward to town council. I think that's something that would behoove this area. Of course, we're wishing you all the best of success and to be here for years to come, but in the event of there's a change of ownership and things like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing further.
The landlord will appreciate that, too.
Anybody else?
You could probably find a 18-wheeler to back up into it.
Test it.
Hasn't happened yet, but I hate to even talk about it.
For removal.
'Cause
Hey,
I'll
hey,
get-
stuff happens, man.
Even though I'm not connected to that, I'll get the phone call first. I can guarantee you. The store owners will call me first.
Are y'all kind of wrapped up with questions? Because, okay, so I'll go over a few of the things that, people that called me. I had to remind one gentleman, Pinch a Penny is allowed to open up tomorrow morning. They can open. This request to y'all is specific to that outside storage. And so, because he was, very adamant that didn't want this and, the chemicals and all of that. And I was trying to remind him how many other, I think there's 30 within like 5 miles of us that pool stores. But that was one of the first things, is just they are retail, they can go in, and so the focus is very much so on this outside storage. And then the other one was, we just didn't have a good, photo. What I think you said, was that in McKinney's? Was that one of McKinney's? I can't remember where that was. But obviously, it matches the exterior of that building, and so I was reminding her that, no, it doesn't have to be red brick. It's going to match the existing. And she had also mentioned that maybe the height, just to not see it, it looks ugly, even though it's on the back of the building. That's where generally just, the Dan's Bagel people, they're parking back there, and all the other, people, that's kind of where those workers and stuff park their cars.
I think that's an example of one of the stores maybe in Houston or Austin. That's not a DFW store.
Right.
So,
But she did make a point that it almost looked like that was the soccer fields in the background, just off to the right. And I was like, no, it's a good, it's a good rendition. But yes, I was going to mention that, but y'all jumped on it, was just the height itself. We could absolutely incorporate that in. Because I agree, yes, it's on the back, and yes, it's not seen, but yes, it is seen, because you've got a lot of activity behind there. So I think those were my main point. And then the concentrate, that was another real, very important, because if you're bringing in 100% concentrate, that's a different ballgame. And Fire Marshal had already said that is.
That's not happening.
Yeah, not at 900 gallons, maybe like closer to 50, but not at 900. So, because now you're in the commercial world, industrial, so. I think those were the 3 or 4 main things on my phone calls. So,
Anything else? Would someone like to craft a motion?
I could try and make a motion up.
Before we do so, in this motion, do we need to add what we want what we recommend to town council? So we need to add
I was
the height.
Yeah.
gonna,
Can we discuss, how do y'all feel about that spill analysis being done? I saw online quite a bit of concern about that creek behind there. And I think this would save town council to go, listen, we've modeled it, here's where the liquid would go, here's how far it would go, here's what it would do. It wouldn't reach the creek, it wouldn't,
So
wouldn't do this.
I'm in favor, only because it mitigates concern,
Yeah,
and it shows that council did address
exactly.
potential concerns of the community.
Well, and just because we
Okay,
recommend it to
we can-
council does not mean,
Doesn't mean they have to do it.
Correct.
it's just a recommendation. So if it's a
They're gonna get their
recommendation
ear
for,
full.
Well,
for safety purposes and for the reasons that you outlined, I think it's a good measure.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
we could do the request, and then if they had the ability to get it done prior to, then that would kind of help with
Absolutely.
that as well. Because if it goes to council and still hadn't been done,
Right.
that's going to be a tough decision.
Yeah, it would need to be done before that.
And as an
Prior to.
exhibit, it goes perfect with the sub
Yeah.
discussion as they go through.
Correct.
So, yeah, I just think it's valid.
Yeah.
Okay.
all right. Let me see if
All
I
right,
can make
give it a
this-
rip.
Let's see how we
Okay.
go with this, okay? All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to support case SUP 26-001, Pincher Penny Pool, Patio and Spa, Outdoor Storage Tank, with the conditions that, 1, a spill analysis study is performed prior to approval, that due consideration is made to the height of the cinder block and security of that area to avoid any vandalism or any problem there. That also consideration is given to shading of that structure to minimize the amount of venting that is going on there. What am I missing, boys? And the removal language from the town to the landlord of what would happen when Pincher Penny Pool decides to terminate its lease in that building and how it's to be returned back.
Second?
We have a second. Any further discussion
Ticked
or
all the
questions?
boxes.
Yeah, about to sound, you did perfect.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, guys.
Did you oppose?
No.
Oh,
I have my hand up.
I saw your hand, but it was your left hand.
He was just
No, I
providing
went like this. I
guidance.
forgot I get to vote, you know?
That's the Caesarean way, that's
Right.
not an agreement.
I thought the idea was there always had to be someone. I mean, just for
There used to be.
Yeah,
There used to be always one.
right. Anything else? Okay, moving on to item number 2 on the agenda, regular items. Consider approval of the April 9th, 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes. Everybody reviewed those?
Yes.
Do we have any changes, additions? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the April 9th, 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Second?
I'll second.
Second?
Mike,
No.
second.
I'm jumping the gun.
No, it's okay, bro.
I was just.
Not as bad as
What I was
me.
gonna say is, the motion doesn't sound as good without the accent.
Exactly right. That's why I hesitated
So-
to even throw it out.
It was just a joke.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the April 9th, 2026 Planning and Zoning minutes and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Meeting adjourned at
Yeah.
6:49 PM.
Gave it that touch of Harlem.